Welcome back to this tutorial on making an action RPG game. Today we're going to be talking a bit about the camera. First of all, let's think a little bit about our screen resolution. If we go into Project Settings and go to Window, we can see that the width and height of the screen are 1024 by 600. I think in this project I'd like to go for a more retro feel, so I'm going to make a square screen. Each tile in our game is 16 pixels wide, and I think one screen will be 20 tiles wide. Therefore, the width needs to be 16 times 20. Similarly, the height will also be 320 pixels. Let's take a look at the stretch mode at the bottom of the Window tab. We're going to set it to viewport, and we're going to set aspect to keep width. This will allow us to resize the window. Now if we go back to this screen, we can see that this pink box around the hero is much smaller. Our camera 2D is currently set to 4 times zoom, so let's disable that. This is the scale of our screen. We can see that things are pretty small here. We can, of course, resize the screen to be able to see our character a little bit better, but it's going to be a bit annoying to have to do this every time we want to test the scene. So let's go into Project Settings, and I'm going to set Test Width and Test Height to double the resolution. And actually, now that I think about it, I think 20 tiles might be too many, so let's drop that down to 16 tiles. So 16 by 16 for the width, and similarly for the height. And then test width and test height will be double that, so 256 times 2 and another 512. All right, that seems like a more manageable screen size. And now we can see when we open the window, it has double the size that it normally would. And in fact, actually, let's just make it triple the size. There, that should be pretty good for testing. Right now, the world of the game is pretty boring, because we only have land tiles or pit tiles. So I'm going to add a few more tile types very quickly to round things out. First of all, let's create a cliff tile set. I'm going to add a new grassy cliff auto tile. I'll use this region, add a 3x3 bit mask. I'm using a blank tile for the center because we're going to paint on top of it using a different tile set. And that does it for the bit mask. Let's add colliders. Alright, and that takes care of all the collisions. I'm going to name this tile Grassy Cliff. Now I'll add another tile set called Obstacle Tiles. This will be for things like trees, for example. I'm going to add a single tile, which is going to be this tree. I'm going to call it Green Tree, because later we may want the yellow and brown trees. And we need to add a collider for it. Now, our world will be divided up into 16 by 16 regions. We can easily see the outlines of this region using the pink box, but when we're editing the other regions, we won't have that box. So let's do something to make the editor a little bit more helpful to us here. If we go into the View tab up here, we can see that we can toggle a grid. The shortcut is Control'', which gives us this. This is helpful, but we still might get confused about where the major lines are. So let's change it. We can go into here and configure snap. Since tiles are 16 pixels, let's make that the grid step. The larger primary lines happen every 16 steps, since that's the size of the screen. And now if we zoom out, we can see that the screen is made up of 16 by 16 squares, and each of these will be one screen for our player. I'm going to go ahead and add some interesting scenery. I will create a layer called Cliffs and use the cliff tiles. And I will create an obstacles layer and use the obstacle tiles tile set. Thinking about collision, I'm going to put the obstacles tile map on the obstacles layer, and I'm going to put the cliffs tile map on the terrain layer. Now let's paint. Looks like the green tree, oh, it's just too big. Cell size needs to be reduced. I'm going to need to move the hero out of the way here, along with the NPCs. I think we'll want some stairs to go up this cliff, so let's go into the cliff tiles and add that. All right, I'm just going to use this stair call it grassy stairs, since it's going with the grassy cliffs. And now going back to cliffs, if we want to place the grassy stairs, we're going to need to disable auto tiling first, otherwise the cliffs will automatically adjust for it. For example, it'll look like this, which is not what we want. So go here, disable auto tile, go here, and place the stairs. In order to explore this space, let's attach the camera to the hero and reset the transform so it's centered on the hero. Now the camera will move around as the hero moves around. Here's our new world. We can go up here onto the cliff top. The collision does not seem to be working. I'll come back to that in a moment. We can go down here, jump over the pits. Okay, now question is, why is the collision not working? The hero doesn't have a mask on the terrain layer. Let's fix that. Alright, there we go. Now the collision with the cliff is working properly. It does, however, look like the dialogue is unfortunately large, so we'll need to scale that down a bit. That's because we changed the resolution size of the screen. In our balloon fonts, we just dropped the font size way down. Okay, that is still not good. I think I'll probably just come back to that later. Now, you might wonder why I'm talking about the camera as though we need to do something more about it. After all, right here, we just tacked the camera onto the hero, and now it follows the hero around. So, aren't we done? Well, we certainly could be. However, I don't think we should, and here's why. Let's say that there's something important in this forest clearing down here. And I'm just going to move Bob down here as a placeholder. Now, when we run the game, if the hero moves down here, the hero can see Bob on the other side of the trees. But maybe it's not Bob. Maybe it's some gigantic dragon or a magical sword in a stone. The issue is that we have no way to hide what's on the other side of these trees from the hero, which means if you want to have a dragon in a forest clearing, there need to be enough trees on either side of the clearing that the hero can't get close enough to see the dragon. What I want to do instead is to set up a system where the camera is fixed on one of these 16 by 16 areas, and then whenever you move into a new area, the camera follows you. We can accomplish this by moving the camera out here and then creating a script at the top level that's going to pay attention to where the hero is and move the camera accordingly. Let's define a physics process. Every physics frame, we are going to look up the hero's position. Current hero position equals the hero node dot position. Next, we're going to divide the magnitude of that vector by the size of a room in pixels. This will give us the regional position, which is where the hero would be on the world map if each of the 16 by 16 rooms was 1 pixel. We'll say regional position equals current hero position divided by room size, where we're going to define constant room size as being 16 pixels times 16 tiles per room. Next, we're going to take the floor of that position. The floor of a vector is a new vector with all components rounded down towards negative infinity. So for example, minus 0.65 minus 0.25 would become negative 1,1. And let's specify this as a float and then call floor on this. Okay, so 16.0 times 16.0. Now, our camera is currently in drag center mode. We're going to change that to fixed top left mode so that the camera's position is fixed so that the top left corner is always at the origin. And if we look back at our map, we can see that, the camera is now at the origin. So the last thing we need to do is set the camera's position to be the regional position multiplied by the room size. So camera2d.position equals regional position multiplied by room size. And there we go. Now the camera snaps to the room that it's in. So our hero moves around. We go off the side, and now we're in this room. We can jump across the pit and go down into this room, and then over here into this room. And now we can hide a dragon in this forest. And there is only a few tiles between this room and the one above, and the hero will never know. Well, that's all for now. I think I'm going to see if I can figure out the weirdness with the text balloons, and if I do, I'll put that in a smaller side video. But I think the next topic that I would like to cover is how to use tile sets to place objects that the hero can interact with, such as pots. Thanks for watching.